So this video on condition-dependent origination is looking at the first link, the link that gives rise to karma formations, and that is ignorance. So the Buddha, upon his enlightenment, discovered the true nature of reality. He stopped ignoring the true nature of reality. It wasn't, I think I've discussed this in the first video, it wasn't an establishing of a new existence, a new enlightened existence. Rather, it was the transcendent understanding, the transcendent knowledge and vision of the true nature of reality. So that's really interesting, because the two aspects of ignorance are that it's unknowing and not seeing. So we ignore, we do not see, we ignore, there is ignorance, there is unknowing, simple not knowing of the true nature of reality. And in the absence of that knowledge and vision, the unenlightened mind is making the assumption that the basis of life is dualistic, and that I am a separate, independent entity, independent from the rest of the universe. And what the Buddha is saying is, well, that's a fundamental error, existential error of perception, and it's out of that error that actions are performed, and therefore that's how we create this wheel of condition-dependent origination. So once that error is established, everything that follows on from that is warped. So under the influence of that mistaken perception, we act, and then we experience the results of those actions, and we do so in the belief that we are separate. There is a separate aspect to us which is separate from the rest of experience, so those results are happening to me. So that view, self-view, is always being reinforced both by the actions that we perform, and the results that come to us are both reinforcing the perception that I am separate from the rest of experience. So this process just goes on endlessly, as we've discussed in previous videos. So ignorance conditions craving, and craving conditions ignorance. That is to say that we want to uphold the view of self. That's the unenlightened mind's primary function, is to uphold the idea of oneself as separate from existence. And the thing about ignoring is that in order to ignore something, you must have first seen it, which is ultimately our way out of this problem. But firstly, to ignore something, we must have first seen it, and then chosen not to acknowledge it. So there is this willful, volitional turning away from the true nature of reality, and we do it in order to maintain the belief in oneself as separate. And that might sound extraordinary, but we do, and without proper training it's impossible to withstand the truth. Whilst you uphold a view of self, and yet you look at reality as it truly is, it will appear to the unenlightened mind, the mind that believes that it is separate from the rest of experience, it will appear like annihilation, as like the most terrible void. Because reality is actually empty of all the things that appear to be there. It's a rather convoluted way of saying it. Reality is non-dualistic. There are no objects, there are no things. there is the appearance of separate objects and things, but there is no substance to those appearances. They are mere appearance. So, but because there is an deep emotional dependency upon the view of self, to be shown reality in an instant would appear incredibly frightening. It would appear incredibly frightening. That fear is then that movement away. It's like, oh, I don't want to acknowledge that, I don't want to see that. Oh, no. And that's where we get this passionate craving for life to be different than it is. So that's the point of first division. And then from that point onwards, there's always this constant reinforcing going on, and all the views that arise and all the rest of it. And then you get yourself trapped on this wheel, this never-ending wheel of action, results, responding to the result with fresh action, always reinforcing self-view. So I hope I've explained that well enough. So ignorance then is a mental factor that is present in all states of consciousness, unenlightened consciousness. Now, that there might be a relative level of knowledge and vision, like for instance, there might be a relative understanding of the law of action and result, and somebody who becomes aware that their actions have results and utilizes this knowledge of Paticca Samuppada and recognizes that they can move their life towards greater peace and happiness and well-being through the choices that they make and the way that they behave volitionally. That degree of relative awareness, relative wisdom is fine. But yet, even in those wholesome actions, there is an underlying latent ignoring. Latent ignoring? That's probably not quite the right word, but that there is that factor of ignorance of the fundamental nature of existence, because it's that process, that mundane wisdom of learning about how actions have results, is still mired in a dualistic standpoint, basic fundamental view of life which says I am separate from the rest of experience. So you have to go deeper than that in order to remove that intrinsic ignorance. And that's the province of Vipassana meditation, and perhaps I should do some videos on Vipassana meditation, what it consists of, what it's for. But essentially, what we're doing when we practice the Buddha's higher teaching is we learn all about Paticca Samuppada, the Four Noble Truths, the 3 marks of existence, the 5 aggregates. We gain an intellectual knowledge of all of that, but then we turn our minds to paying exquisite attention and investigating and exploring our conscious experience as it's unfolding in order to wear away and whittle away at that fundamental ignoring. And there's a whole progress of insight, a whole procession of insights that arise all in due order, where one gains experiential understanding of the transient, ungraspable, unsatisfactory, impersonal nature, conditioned nature of all conditioned experiences. And it is that undoes the ignorance. In undoing the ignorance, you undo the tendency towards karma formations, acting out of a view of self. Because you're undoing that, you undo the following conditions that, through no longer acting out of a view of self, no subsequent resultant consciousness need arise, therefore mind and body need not arise, therefore the sixth sense spaces do not arise, therefore the contacts do not arise, therefore the feelings do not arise, therefore the craving for life to be different does not arise, therefore the clinging does not arise, therefore the becoming does not arise, therefore future birth does not arise, and all the suffering that arises upon that does not arise. So yeah, we should do videos on Vipassana specifically at some point, so I can go through the fetters with you and all of that kind of stuff. So the knowledge that comes is, firstly, what we have to do is to stop this wheel of condition-dependent origination, which is the purpose of Vipassana meditation. Vipassana meditation does not enlighten you. What practicing Vipassana does, it produces the stopping of all that becoming. So that becoming is all action based in ignoring reality. So to go back to my previous point, it is proactively trying, becoming can be seen as proactively trying to keep this wheel going, to keep the ignoring going, to stop any possibility of seeing reality, because seeing reality will undermine that self-view. So we tend towards becoming of staying ignorant. And what following the Buddha's higher teaching will do is eventually bring us to the point of stopping, and we stop psychologically trying to make life right. We psychologically stop ignoring the fact that life is suffering. We stop trying to fix it, and we let it be. But we're letting it be not on just some superficial level, but deeply, emotionally, spiritually. The whole of our being, we come to a natural stopping where we are no longer on any level of our being trying to make life right. And it's in that moment of stopping, so the stopping of Paticca Samuppada, that the transcendent knowledge and vision of the true nature of life is self-evident. You don't make it. It always is. This is so difficult to explain, but this knowledge is, it's not knowledge that can be communicated. It can't be packaged in words. It transcends all our attempts to describe it, but it is. And when the wheel of Paticca Samuppada finally stops, then there is just this simple recognition. But even to say that there is a recognition suggests that there's someone who recognizes a thing which is to be recognized, which suggests duality, and this is why you can't put it into words. It's just, there is just this nascent knowing that comes with the stopping. It's always there, but you've got to stop first. You've got to stop first, and then it's not that you know and that's what brings this to a halt. It's you have to bring this to a halt first, and then there's the knowing, there's the knowledge and wisdom. That's the way it works. So you could say, on one level, you could say, well, there's nothing you need to do in order to become enlightened. There's just a stopping and there's just a knowing. But what is it that you actually have to go through in order to reach that point where you will spontaneously and happily let go of trying to stop life from being suffering, where you quite spontaneously and happily just let go of all your ambitions, all your desires, all your needs, all your emotional dependencies. And then you look into that awesome emptiness, and that there is this remarkable revolution that occurs. You need a training. Only an historical Buddha can really accomplish that without any help. But even he put in lifetimes of work on the mundane level to get his mind to a suitable place where he could come to that great understanding. So that's why you have to have training. You have the training in order to give you the development of the spiritual faculties and maturing them to the degree where then it becomes possible to look into what is mistakenly viewed as a void. And to bring that whole wheel of Paticca Samuppada to a grinding halt. So yeah.